Chris Eubank Jr. has stuck to his word. Shout out to G-Man, by the way, because I saw his video regarding this. Then I went to Eubank Jr.'s Instagram page, and you can see he's posted a screenshot of all this money that's gone out to the fighters who were supposed to be on the undercard of the original date for Eubank Jr. Conor Benn. And he wrote below, after my first scheduled bout with Conor Benn got cancelled, Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing never compensated anyone for their training camps, which never sat well with me. So here's a little something to help out the undercard fighters that were left out of pocket. And in brackets, he says, a few boxers didn't want to give me their bank details. Maybe they will now. Why wouldn't they want to give him their bank details? Like, are they that paranoid and are they that brainwashed about Eubank Jr.? Did they seriously think he would have, tried to commit fraud upon them or do something dodgy with their bank details? Like, come on. Come on. Or maybe they just dislike him that much that they don't want to take a penny off him. If you're sensible, unless you are a high-earning fighter, and most of them are not, then you'll take the damn money. You know what I mean? And as you could see, several fighters took the money. He paid out to Felix Cash, Harlem Eubank, Connor Coyle, Matty Harris, Mary Romero, Chloe Watson, S.J. Courtney, I guess that's Shannon Courtney, GY Boxing Limited, Ellie Scottney, Lyndon Arthur. They all got, $3.5 grand? Not bad. Big up Eubank Jr. for being a man of his word and doing what Conor Benn and Eddie Hearn really should have done, right? They should have been the ones compensating the fighters who were put out of pocket that didn't get to have their fights that were meant to be on the undercard. These guys are not earning millions. They weren't raised rich like Conor Benn, like Eddie Hearn, and of course like Eubank Jr. But Eubank Jr. wasn't at fault for the original date of the fight falling through. He wasn't at fault for that. It was, of course, Conor Benn. He was at fault. And since that was Eddie Hearn's fighter, he has to have some culpability as well. So yeah, big up Eubank Jr. for being a man of his word and paying 50 grand collectively, obviously, to the fighters who were supposed to be on that original undercard. And that's on top of paying 100 grand fine. I know he's contesting the 100 grand fine, which is steep. And the British Boxing Board of Control said that the money goes to the British Board's charity. Now, to me, that instantly rings alarm bells. I can't tell you that things are not on the up and up. I don't know. Okay, but anyone who knows anything about charities will know that a lot of them are dodgy. In fact, I might even want to say the majority of them could be construed as dodgy or at least not effective. Because if you actually look at the books, such as they are, of a lot of the charities, the majority of the money that gets paid to perhaps the majority of them, like I say, ends up paying for the staff, for their wages, for their travel costs, expenses, and only a small percentage actually goes to the people that it's supposed to go to, depending on what charity it is. Look it up. Yeah, I've known people, for example, that worked for Oxfam at a relatively high level, and they said it was like that there, where an enormous amount of money was going to staff. And that's where, I can't say with Oxfam specifically if that's where the majority of the donations were going, but it certainly made up for an enormous amount of where the donations were going, was paying staff and stuff like that, And so when the British Boxing Board of Control say the money goes to their charity, who works for their charity? Do the board members work for their charity? What do they get as being members of that charity? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just asking loads of questions in my head when Robert Smith said that. If the money was donated to a different charity, I mean, he did say that the charity does certain things and helps boxers and this, that, and the other. Yeah, all charities profess to help people. But then they're paying staff members to fly around the world and putting them up in hotels and, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's what a lot of charities do, bro. In fact, Graham Hancock, before he started investigating and researching ancient cultures, he was like a mainstream journalist, right? Graham Hancock. And one of the first books that he wrote, look this up, was called Lords of Poverty. And Lords of Poverty was actually an expose of sorts on charities. Yeah, I think that's when he was working for. Was it The Economist? Might have been when he was working for The Economist. He worked for a couple of mainstream papers, but one of them was definitely The Economist. And this would have been in the 1980s. He was working for one of the mainstream papers and he wrote that book, Lords of Poverty. Anyway,